Okay, so we're gonna do the quick version of a mat assembly, a seam assembly here. You're gonna need a handful of things. You're gonna need masking tape, definitely not this thin. You want like full 2-inch masking tape. You're gonna need masking paper, not this narrow. You're gonna want like 12 to 18 inch wide. The wider the better, it leaves you a lot of room to screw up and not damage your mat. You're gonna need HH66 vinyl cement, plenty of it. You're gonna need a cup to put a little bit of the cement in. You're gonna need a throwaway brush that you don't have to clean, or a few of them depending on if you're planning on doing this all at once or over the course of a couple of days. And you're gonna need a squeegee. That's the quick version for the simple version of this for beginners. So you're also gonna need some weights to weight down your mat. Today I'm just gonna, on this table for the sake of demonstration purpose, I'm just gonna use the tape to tape this down, but you're not gonna be able to tape down a giant, mat or long strips. You're gonna need weights. Like, it doesn't matter what you use. If you have, dumbbells, if you have plates, just be careful about setting the edges down on the vinyl. Like if you have you can put a little bit of tape on the bottom of it where you're gonna be setting it down to protect the mat from the metal of the dumbbells or the plates, or you can use anything. You use paint cans, just be careful with those. You don't want to spill them and destroy everything. But for the sake of today, for demonstration purposes, I'm just gonna use tape because I don't have any weight. So once you get your two pieces lined up, and you're gonna want lined up your pieces nice and straight, the two pieces you're gonna be seaming, nice and straight with about a 3 or so inch overlap. 3 inches gives you a good mating surface. I typically do 2, but I'm pretty precise with it, so 3 will make it a little bit easier on you to get this done with no defects. So just imagine I'm weighting these down. I have them lined up. I'm weighing down the pieces so that I can manipulate them during the process of the gluing. You cunt. You can mark your, you should probably buy fresh masking tape. Don't use old storage masking tape. So you want to make sure that when you line it up, it's consistent the whole way down, or when you stretch the mat in place, if you have any curvature or inconsistency between your overlaps, it's going to be super hard to get that stretched and pulled apart to where there's no wrinkles or loose spots, okay? So once you have it lined up exactly where you want it with your perfect overlap, and then you have it weighted down, okay, what you're gonna do is you're gonna flip the first couple of feet back, and you're gonna roll your paper out down where your seam's gonna be. You get it nice and flat, you flip one side back, you make sure you have it perfectly where you want it, because what this is gonna do is this is gonna catch any glue that goes, that pushes out from the seam underneath. You don't want to glue this to your floor or ruin your floor if you have a nice floor, okay? And again, the wider the better on that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to come back with tape, and again, plenty of tape. And you're going to mask up the surface of your mat so that any glue that smushes out of the seam on top does not ruin your mat, because this stuff, it melts the mat. You want to leave it maybe a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch from the seam so you get good contact with the glue. You do that on the top and bottom, so a 1/16 to an 1/8 across that side, a 1/16 to an 1/8 across this side. And when you trim these pieces, you always want to make sure you have extra beyond the size of what your finished mat is going to be, so that once it's all, you have room to grab it, to pull and stretch, and then once it's all stapled in, you have, excess you can trim away. Once you have a layer of tape down, you roll your paper out the whole way down both sides. tape that down to the tape. Make sure this is stuck down good, because the vinyl cement will work its way past these seams if you don't have it perfectly, you know, smushed down, so to speak. And if you're on a concrete floor, a lot of times you'll have, you know, divots or variations or reliefs in the concrete where, you know, maybe there's a chip or piece of aggregate popped out, or who knows what it was, you know, and everything, but you don't want that. So now once you have both sides done, okay, what you're gonna do, and you wanna go a couple of feet out with this paper so that you have plenty of room to work. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take the top side and you're gonna flop it back. Boom, that's exactly what you want. That way when you flop it over, it has to land perfectly back in its original place. The weights are going to do that for you. You flop it down, boom, has to land perfectly in its place, okay? You don't want this to move at all when you're manipulating it or walking across it to glue it down. You take your cup, not on the mat, so in case you spill it and you pour a little bit out. This stuff can be a freaking mess sometimes. It's annoying and whatnot, whatever. You roll your entire mat back, you take a throwaway brush, and you slop this stuff on. Boom. Do not be stingy with it. Do not take your time. This has to happen fast. You gotta get a healthy slopping of this stuff down, and you gotta move, because this stuff is drying as you put it on. Boom. Once you get it glued all the way down, you flop it over, and then take some kind of squeegee, and you squeegee from end to end. Boom, end to end. Squeeze it down nice and firm. Doesn't matter how much smushes out the bottom, it doesn't matter how much smushes out the top, as long as it smushes. Now once that's done, if you got a big rail, a big pile on here, like a big bead of it, just smooth that down so it doesn't drip when you pull this paper up, because you're not gonna wait for this to cure anymore. You're gonna immediately come back from the other side, immediately, because it's already gluing down, and you're gonna peel that paper back, and then you're gonna walk away. You're gonna walk away from that seam, you're gonna leave it for a while, and that's the whole process. Of course, eventually, you know, you're gonna wanna get this loose. Now this is still wet underneath a little bit, so it will slide out now, but you're gonna let this sit, then you're gonna flip this back once it's cured after a couple of hours, and you're gonna get this paper out so you don't end up with paper underneath that can absorb moisture and cause mildew and bacteria. You could probably do one of these seams every 2 hours, okay? Unless you got a big long room where now you can just shuffle your weights over here and then do the same to this seam without ever manipulating or moving this seam from this point, okay? It is sticking, it is gluing at this point, that's why you have to act fast, but you can still rip this apart if you wanted to. And that is the entire process. Again, boom. Don't touch it, leave it for a couple hours. Don't stretch, install it until the next day. Good luck.